So today we studied about what is the background of Power BI, how did it start from its initial stage using Excel, still current stage as a separate software competing with Excel with better UI and features. We saw how year by year what happened to Power BI development and how we landed up at Power BI. We also compared a Power BI with its competitors uh, in the Gartner's report, which is Quick Click View and W and ClickSense and other tools. And amongst all the tools we found, Power BI is way ahead of the curve and a market leader. At the same time, it is not expensive as its peers and it's used massively by huge corporations to quickly turn their data into digital dashboards. We also saw how to get download Power BI and use Power BI on your Windows machine. And we also saw different data sources to which Power BI can connect to. So in your backend, you can always think about any data source, what you can even imagine. There are ways and connectors to connect to Power BI. Overall, we studied these things, and now as we proceed in our next series, we would see how to view the Power BI desktop. The Power BI desktop, as I said, is an initial source of development, and that is the starting point where all the developers would churn in their data into a beautiful visualization of dashboard. With this, we conclude the first lecture and proceed to our next, which in our next series, we are going to study what are the different file menu options on the Power BI toolbar and how does it reflect on the Power BI software. Thank you. Till then, bye bye. Welcome. So today we are going to view all the menu options available in the Power BI desktop. As we said, Power BI desktop is a very versatile product in which you would be developing different kinds of visualizations based on your different formats of data you have. Today we are going to study the menu options, which is File, Home, View and Modeling are typically available as a menu bar option at the top of the Power BI desktop software. These options enable us to set the data, work around the data, calculate certain data, arrange the different visualizations what we've bought on the screen. Uh, to study this, let's first see Power BI desktop. So today this is the Power BI desktop. As you can see, the UI is a little bit different today because there's nothing pending to be downloaded. This is the latest available Power BI desktop, which I have downloaded on my machine, and this would be used to develop further. Ensure yourselves with using the latest Power BI desktop to make use of the latest features developed by Microsoft and released to us. So these are the menu options I was speaking about. File menu. File menu has new to create a new report, open some existing reports, save. If you want to save somewhere, then you move forward with save as, then you go into get data. As I said, it has lot many data sources and its connectors available over here. If you have some template, Power BI template or some visual which you developed on your own, or you have downloaded from a marketplace, all those files can be imported over here. If you want to export this current report somewhere to be used in some other Power BI file, then you can set this data and file as a template to be used in some other place. Publish option goes to your, again, publish option would only be available if you are a logged in user and at the same time you have a space on the Microsoft cloud to deploy your app. Export to PDF, this feature we are going to see, as the name suggests, it will export the contents of your report which you have page 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc. into a beautiful PDF file to be shared across the organization. Yes. Help help is some sample documents to help you going. What's new takes you to the website, sign out, exit. Okay. So let's start with a new file. Today, let's go back to a new file, new. All right. Let's begin with importing some data to play around with and then explore the options under the menu bar. First of all, we need some data. We go into get data, and to begin with a very simple piece of information, let's connect to the Excel data sheet. What I've done is I have downloaded a software. I've made a Excel out of some sample data, and that is the data we are going to import. So you just browse to your Excel sheet, attach the Excel sheet, and say open. This Power BI would now analyze the Excel data, try to relate some data, create some relationships if it can understand the data, and then import the data. It would also show you, give you an option to which data you want to import. So let's see, it is preparing to import. So this is the navigator wherein all the sheet data what you have. As of now, my sheet consists of two kinds of data which I really want to get in and open. By the time till the time it is opening this sheet, let us go into the downloads and let's open the sample store. Yeah, this is the data what we have in front of us. What we see is these are the headers of the data, right? This is the return items. If so, basically this data belongs to a superstore, and it's about the different kinds of sales what has happened, by who is the customer, how was the sale conducted, did we do a standard mode of shipping or a second class, when was the order given, when was the shipment sent, who was the customer, its customer unique ID, the segment it belonged to. There are three types of segments which we have over here. Country he or she belonged to, the city, the state he or she belonged to, postal code. These are the personal information of the customer. Now, what product did he purchase? What category that product fell into? What kind of subcategory the product was in? What was the name given to the product? What was the rate of that product which the user purchased? What was the quantity the user purchased? Was there any discount available for the user? If there was, then what percentage discount was given to the user? And finally, the value the user paid for the quantity he purchased. So this is one piece of information. Second sheet consists of, if there was a return in order, what was this order ID? Since order IDs are unique, it would be simple for us to trace it back. So if you look at it, order ID and here is the order ID. The column names would be the same. This is one piece of information which you would have to take care while working with the information in the Power BI. Then I have a customer list which tells me about who is the customer and what region does he belong to. You may choose to have many more different fields and attributes to every customer. For the simplicity's sake and for our understanding's sake, I have kept this sheet very simple as possible. I have ensured a couple of things over here, that the first column only consists the names of the customer and second column especially consists of the regions. If we look at it, you would see these many regions available to the customer. And if you look at the names, there would be purely names of the customer in the system. So now let's go to the Power BI. As we see, till the time we understood the data which was imported, the sheet will show you what data is available. So if you feel what is this order is all about, the Power BI desktop gives you a system of preview. In this, it reads the data which is ready to upload into the system of Power BI desktop and gives you an option whether you want to import it into the Power BI, or you may choose to not import it to the Power BI. Since the data is huge, it might, and based on the connectivity and the bandwidth and the processing of your machine, it would throw you some content over here. So let's go ahead till the time it brings this data. I want to have all three pieces of information to be imported into my system. So what I say, I select all three from the navigator and then I say import or load. In this case, it is shown as load. So let's click on load. What it does is Power BI in the background tries to find out relationships. So like it says, determining automatic transformation. If there are some transformations, some corrections, some field type adjustments to be built, Power BI in itself will make that field type changes. For every table, there is a size. So basically, every Excel sheet corresponds to one table in Power BI. And every sheet, if there is relation between those two sheets, Power BI in itself would identify and try to relate it if it can clearly determine the relationship. If it cannot, then in this case, it would leave open the relationship determination to the end user or the developer building this Power BI report. So these many rows are getting imported in the returns column. There are about 290 plus rows. About 3.23 MB is the size of the Excel sheet what we've uploaded. People are getting imported in thousands and they're still importing. Yes, they're still getting imported. Let's wait for this to happen. And once it is done, yes, it is downloading. Till the time it processes this, let's go back to the Excel sheet. If you closely look at the Excel sheet, you would find out the every row has some data. Point number one. Please remember every rows and columns should have some data to minimize errors in the processing in the future learning sessions we would come across. So every rows and columns should have some kind of data. Every column should have same kind of data, not the same data. So if it is numeric, ensure that it is numeric data. If it is alphanumeric, it consists alphanumeric data. If it is order ID, then all the data under that order ID column is actually an order ID. If it is a date column, ensure it is in some kind of a date format, same one unique format, whatever it might be, an American and European date format, it's okay. But it should have a date, it can't have a number or an alphabet. Similarly, customer name, there has to be a customer name. If there is a customer name, there has to be a customer ID. And if there is a customer, there are certain segments like country, state, city, which and postal code which are part of it. It should come. So now if you look at it, it is still getting downloaded. It is still getting downloaded. When some processing gets over, at that time Power BI automatically prominently comes up into your screen. So till then we can again go back, and pin code should be there for product ID. If you have for analysis on the product ID, ensure product ID has some content. And similarly, if there's rate discount, this is there. So if you see, there is a calculated column which is revenue. And revenue, what does the revenue column do? It throws up what is the income which the superstore got after every sale, after discounting the value of the discounting percentage. So if you look at it, what I have done over here is Q2 into R2 for the first column, that is rate into quantity, minus the percentage of the rate into quantity, right? So this is the discounting value, what we discounted from the total value. And if you see, I have done that across all the places and it is ready. Returns column has only the return is there and at which order has been returned. So effectively we'll come to know. And then there's a people column which is only showing about the person's name and region. We are ensuring that every order has one relationship coming from, unique relationship coming from the person's sheet. So before we proceeded with our import step, I ensured that there were no two columns of the same kind. There was some error. Let's import again. So file, get data, Excel, sample superstore, okay. And if sometimes such error comes up and you don't see those columns over here, probably we'll have to close this. So let's say closed, retry, save. I save my sheet over here because it was open, right? That's why I closed it now. Now let's do one thing. Let's establish, it's already establishing a connection over here. Let's wait for that to get over. Sometimes it takes painstakingly long time to get you connected and import the data, and sometimes it does import the data. So what we'll do over here is, see, this is the filter thing what we've brought into the system. So let's ignore the filter database option. Let's select all the three tables over here. I don't want to preview what is coming. Okay, lucky us that the preview option is enabled now. it is throwing up the data of the Excel sheet just to ensure that that thing is proper. And this is the row ID, right? So let's load the content into the system. So now it is importing the content. You might face such problems as in you would see these braces, two braces. This thing happens when you are importing the same content twice. In this case, like any other Microsoft machine, it would create a copy of that with the nomenclature as two. If you want to view the contents of what you imported, you can first view it in the model option over here. You might see 2, 2, and 2 given over here. There would also be 1, 1 anywhere if there is. If there is not, you are free to rename it, right? It's simple to do that. Close. Okay. And you can, okay. There are ways to rename these two things as well. For now, let's start with this. So now we have these columns over here. Let's rename it to orders learning, since we are learning over here, and close it. Please apply or discard the changes. So what I'll do is I'll discard anything what was done earlier, and now I would say rename, and I would say orders learning. Please apply or discard the pending query changes, but there are no pending. Okay, apply changes. So what happens is earlier version was not completed, so right now it is trying to connect to it and get over. So what we'll do is we will disconnect this and continue. So for our simplicity's sake, let's proceed with the orders option. In this, what we'll do is we'll create a visual to see what are the different options over here. We've imported a data. We are not doing any import or of a template over here. We will export the current template what we will at the end of it. Let's make a visualization now. So to make a visualization, there are two ways. Under the home option, you can click on a new visualization, or you can click on the visualization found under this screen. There are other visualization which can be imported from the marketplace, which we'll do it later. So right now, let's stick to our basic visualization theme, which is map, right? So in this, if I have to place order city, right, order country, and if I say country would lead the city, okay. So let's go do one thing. Let's change it to a basic visualization, which is this. And now let's consider what product was bought. So let's understand who bought the product, right? From which state. So if you see, if I expand this, you would see these are the different people who bought the product and how many did they buy. This is the count of state. So let's say we don't want count, but we want the revenue which was bought. So this is the revenue of value these people bought. So you can view it by axis by revenue. At the same time, let's say what product was sold at what revenue can be bought. So these are the different products which were bought at this value. So this is too much to achieve right now. So let's see, let's bring in a filter over here. So if I want to filter something, I would say new visual, and I want to make a filtering criteria over here. So if I say change it to a filter box, so now this is a filter. Look at the background available over here. It is with checkboxes and some filterization. So now I want to filter it based on the product name. So I just give an option of a product name. This is one piece of it, right? So if I want to view something about 10 self-seal white envelopes, I can click on it and I can see what was the sale of it. Now this is selecting only once, but that is something we'll look at in the visualization phase. For now, I'm looking at this product name, right? And I'm looking at the customer name. So if I want to change it, I can do a control C, I can do a control V. it moves another value. See, look at the grid lines. It helps you organize your content in a very beautiful fashion. Now, I don't want about this product name. I want customer name over here. So, since it is a single field option available over here, it gives you a customer name. I also want to have an option of selecting more than one customer. So in this case, if I scroll down, if I see a format of this visualization and I go into the selection controls, I say multi-select on with control and single select off. So what it says, you select one, then you click on control and select something two, and you select three, and you select three, four, five. So these would be selected. So these people, if I have to view, have bought these options, right? And these are the single options what these guys have bought. So this is the way all data originates and helps you visualize. Now let's go ahead and see what all other things are available in the file menu. Yeah. So now, what if we want to export this as a PDF? I don't want to apply any changes over here. So now, let's say this is a super store page, right? This would be return sheet probably, right? So let's see. Uh, I don't want this. I don't want this either. So this is the way you can add and delete pages over here. This is the way you add visualizations over here. In the file menu, there is nothing more to see except the import and the export. So when I say export to PDF, what it does basically is this is something what you have built. You need to see this is how you would view an Excel sheet. Excel sheet content into a beautiful report which you can share it across to your peers and key guys for their KPIs. This is one export to a PDF option which helps you export the contents of all your pages. So right now we only have one page, so one page has been moved to an PDF. If there are more pages will move to PDF. So here we complete the file option. Let's move into the home option. So as we see, the paste is control V. It can be used, it is same as your Windows control C, control V. Cut is control X, copy. Format painter, probably if you have something of this sort to be moved to this visualization, you can move it. It's more like the contents of your format this screen, right? So let's do one thing. Select a customer filter over here since it is known as a slicer, right? Which in other terms is a filter. So let's call it as a slicer over here. In this slicer, I am right now having a background of, let's say I enable the background, I make it a gray color background. Now I don't know what all features of the format I have selected for this visualization, but I want the same visualization feature to be applied to the product name. So what I do is I would select this, I would select product filter and apply it. So now both the visualization have the same kinds of attributes and now it looks consistent on your screen. This helps the end user understand the contents of your report pretty well. Get data, as I said, we've started with Excel to begin with. Today we see all of these in the later stages of our understanding of Power BI. Recent sources is a shortcut to your recent files what you have worked upon, right? So currently we've worked upon sample. So in the order of descending order of the access, it would give you a list of sources. Enter data is something you can create your own data over here. So if I say regions, for me, regions are many, and I can say north, then I can say south, then I can say central, I can say west, I can say east. So this is one more way of getting a data apart from an external data. You can create your own tables. Basically, when you come into Power BI, there is something known as tables, that is nothing but an Excel sheet of rows and columns which you use it offline. Rather, you can name it as a region table, right? To begin with, and you say load. So this thing is also included in the current Power BI desktop development. Right now it is building the table, and if you go back and see, regions are available. If you want to link those regions, this is something advanced I'm going to show it to you apart from the menu icons is, let's say, uh, there's a city, country, state. Okay, you don't have a region over here, you have a region over here. So right now I'm not able to identify what people and column means. So let's go into the data, right? And this is the second tab, second icon in this vertical menu option, wherein the data option gives you a capability to explore the contents of it. So right now, this column is lying empty. This column is column 2. It is not renamed, right? So this is one way of cleaning your data to make it consistent. What I'll go back and see is, what is a person named as? Person is named as customer name. So let's go back to the people table and just name it as customer name. It is not permitting me to, okay. Since, see, this is one more thing. If you initiate an action on Power BI, ensure that action is completed, or else Power BI will continuously prompt you to get that things into the system. So this is one thing which is again there in the system. I now close this and now it won't prompt. Let's now rename this as customer name. It is there. And now let's name it as regions. So from the region table, have we have renamed it as regions, right? So let's, for the consistent, also there is one more way. You shouldn't have plurals in your names titles. So I've renamed it to region. Now let's go back into orders table, not the orders table. Let's go back into the, let's say, not the people table, and just rename it to region. So what I'm doing is I'm cleaning the data in front of you all, right? This is one piece of it. Now look, this was a pending action which was there. I would like to delete these words, right? So I have deleted the orders. I'll only keep the things which are of in the parenthesis with the numeric 2 in it. So I am deleting these things for simplicity of our understanding in the development, and continue the development over here. So these are the three things available over here, right? All right, this is the returns column. It has, let's say, is returned. I have spelled it wrong. Okay, and then let's name it as order ID if I am not wrong. Just to check this out, let's go into orders table and read that order. This please remember, all the things what you see in the list format on the right hand side would always be sorted in an ascending alphabetical order. So if you are looking for an order ID, you have to read from top to bottom, get the order ID in the exact tense, and go back to the table where you came from. No, this was not the table. The table name is return, and just ensure that the same content is given. Lucky, it's the same content what was available. Now if we go back and see, there are chances we can create some sense out of this. We can link region to region in this fashion. It can identify one is too many option, because for every region inside the people parenthesis to parenthesis table, there is one region of a unique one and only region available in the regions table. This is an entity relationship. One is to many. Star means many. One is one. Also remember one important point to note over here is many to many relationship is not available over here. Now, let's see another thing. If you have an order ID in the returns column, there should be exactly one order in the order table. So if I try to link it over here, it creates one is too many. At the same time, if I go and name customer name to customer name, link it to customer name, it would create another column. So now your connections of the table is done. Please remember what we have done. We have built a new table into the system called region table. We've imported three sheets, which is order, people, and returns from an Excel sheet. We built the relationship between those sheets, right? And now with this, now let's see the magic on this screen. Let's take one more visualization, right? Okay, and now let's make it as a filter visualization. Let's ensure that filter exactly looks like the other filter available. And from the returns, from the region table, we are taking the region field over here. So now, if we see blank, is there anything blank? No. Oh, there is one blank, I believe. Right. There is one row which does not have anything. So that's why it is blank. So this is one error on our, no, there is no fields over here, right? Let's see what all sales have happened on the north. Nothing. Okay. Anything on this west? Yes, there are lots of west. Anything on the east? There are lots of east. There is north? No, nothing in the north. Anything in the central? Yes, there are many in central. So there has been no sales in the north. Otherwise, you have found sales everywhere. Again, if you want to select more than one region for comparison, you can view it in this manner. All right. So this is the visualization. This is the fields column. Also, the tables are arranged in the alphabetical order. Visualization area wherein you can select your visualization to be used into the screen. We've seen new visual. Let's have an ask a question. This is something different over here. Let's scroll up and have a look. So let's reduce this to a bit. Let's drag it over here or just double click and it brings lot many ask a question. I don't want that many ask a question over here. Okay, so let's delete this and that's about it. So now what I would say is give me region by, okay, region by or product by region. So if you are looking out which product went to which region, you can get it by here. Let's say sales, or you should say revenue by region. So right now west is selected, so it is reflecting the west. Let's do one thing, just uncheck the west. So this is a region. If you have some more queries, you can also ask this area, analyze it, copy it, such things can come up. So very beautifully what it does over here is it can permit you to query the data into the available in the Power BI desktop and on its own builds its own chart based on what it sees important or the best way of visualizing that data. So this is an ask a question option over here. We can change it. We can change it. That's fine. So let's do ask a question again. Let's say, look at here. The option to ask questions is over here. Let's say sales by region, right? Sales is not the word. The column what we have in our system is revenue. So if we move out of here and we select here, we go here, and these are the different ways you can put it under spotlight. What it does, it disables the other options, and you can blow it up to view it in a better way. You can minimize, go back to the same option, and that's about it. Now let's see, there is an option of buttons over here. If you want to go back to some previous screen, you want some information, you want some help screen, You have a left arrow, right arrow, reset. So there's a reset option over here. So let's explore all of them one by one. So now what we would see is we've just seen ask a question in a form of a visualization. There is another use of ask a question which I'll just tell you shortly. Let's explore what are the buttons. So just for the simplicity's sake, I have built a new page which has all the options of all the buttons available. So if you have a look at it, it is a left arrow, right arrow, reset, back, information, help, Q&A, and bookmark, right? These are the different options available, and I have just brought them onto the page. These can be used in different places as per your need. Only thing you need to remember is after you get in a button on your screen, you have to enable its action. Please don't forget to enable the action. What I try to say over here is go back to the previous page. So that's where I've selected. You can redirect it to a web URL. It will open a URL on a new tab. You can enable a question and answer option right away on the same screen by clicking on a button. You can bookmark the current page somewhere, or you can go back. These are the four options available. In this case, I've selected a back option over here. For an information thing, what I've done is I have redirected it to a URL. So let's rename it to something like www.google.com for our simplicity and learning sake. If you have some question, we can redirect it to a Q&A. So this is another use of ask a question option over here, but with some slight variance over here. Bookmark, I have made an action as bookmark and made it as bookmark number one. That's where things will go. You can all optionally add tooltip as bookmark so that you know what will happen. This is go back. So if you check on it, by default, whenever you click on a visualization, its properties open up in this second last frame, right? In this, just explore option of this. Since this is one way of setting it to back, this is another way of setting it to back, this is a third way of setting it to back option. So similarly for the back option, I've set it over here. These are the 4 or 5 things what I have used over here. uh, Please remember, Power BI desktop would always be a work in progress in terms of development and product given to the end users. So you would see incremental value addition to all of these new features what you're seeing to it online. Now let's deploy this. To deploy this, you have to first sign in. So I have signed in with my name into my domain. Now I click on publish. It would ask you to save the content changes what you've done on this Power BI desktop, which I say it as yes. Where do you want to move it? It is in my workspace is where I want to move it to. There is already something which is already published earlier. That was the same Power BI desktop development. I had published it 2 minutes back in my testing environment. So what I'll do is I'll replace the changes done to this file, and the file name is always PBIX. Like doc file is the Word file, docx is the Word 2000 and or latest 2016 files. Similarly, Power BI desktop will always have PBIX file. When you have this Power BI, it shows you a success option. You can directly click on it and it takes you to that screen, right? It takes you to that same report which you have deployed. This is your starting point. Now, see this. If I say Superstore, right, it takes me to the page one of it. I can do everything over here. Then I have an option to go back. It clicks and takes me to the same earlier page. Similarly, I have an option to go back, and similarly a third option to go back, right? Now another way of looking at it is if you want some information and you have some URLs, some reference documents to be read, that can be given over here. It opens up as a new option over here, and it opens this item up, right? Let's go back. If you have some question answer, right, you can click on it, and by default a slight variance of ask a question is it will help you configure your question. You can check certain queries what Power BI has built it for you. This is right now a Power BI service. When you see power app.powerbi.com, we are in the Power BI service model. Right now it is not Power BI desktop. You already published it to the Microsoft website. and you are exploiting or using the services of Microsoft. So if I want to say top revenue by the city, so it will give you a city-wise revenue for your consumption. If you only want to sort the orders by quantity, this order had the maximum quantity, right? Total revenue over time. So based on different dates on a time frame basis, it will tell you 2015 to 2017 was a period. It was a slightly lean period for the sales. 2017 there was a very sharp spike followed by a persistent sales. So overall you get some high level understanding of your content. What are the most two recent orders? It was sorted by date, and it would give you these are the orders which were recent ones. So amongst all the ship dates, this is the latest orders which we have shipped. Show the maximum rate. This would show the maximum rate which we have. If you have any other thing, you can always say uh, quantity by city. Which city is ordering? These are the orders sent to Akron, Albuquerque, and Alexandria are the three cities which are having maximum orders from our superstore. So this helps the management decide as in where to strengthen the supply chain and distribution lines and where to like kind of shift them from a poor performing or the less demanding locations. So you can do an escape from here and you are out of that. You can bookmark this, you can bookmark that, and bookmarks are available over. No, these are not available over here. Bookmark is available over here. You can say capture this report state, add a bookmark, and you can save it, right? So right now this bookmark thing is not working for some reason and it is redirecting, right? So certain things does happen in that way. We can always verify where does bookmark lead to. We can check bookmark is going to bookmark one, right? So that's how it is. One last thing to view over here is if you hover over it, it would show you the name bookmark, right? So that's what is the one of the options over here. Now we are through with the button. If you're using some text images, you can always click on the text box, and if you want to title superstore some kind of a title you wish to give, so you can increase, you can make it bold, you can make it about font size 18, you can make it so you will have to super Thor sale report, right? Now, if you look at it, I just selected this and I make it bold, I make it huge, so I make it 20 pointer, I make it different into Arial black, and then I just reduce the size, right? This can be used, I can copy this content or I can cut this content, right? So what I'll do is control X, or I don't want to remove this. Okay, control Y. This is to undo it. So these Power BI desktop has the same shortcuts as your any of your Microsoft softwares. Now control X, do it and make it control V. Is it there? Not there. Let's go back. Let's go back. Let's go back. We say cut. It's gone. And we say control V, or we say click on it and we say paste. It's available over here. We can change it. We can move it to some kind of the report. This is how it is. Now, basis this, we have understood more or less how these things work. Right now, we'll not import anything from the marketplace. We are not importing anything from a file. Let's have a look at the theme. Let's change the theme to electric. You will see certain changes over here. If you change it to high contrast, it would show something like this. If you change it to twilight, it would show you some different color scheme. This is a color scheme identified by the Microsoft based on their years of experience into development. Let's stick to default for now. All right. Manage relationship is the same thing what we'd rather do by clicking. Okay, this is the same thing what we'd rather do clicking on the graphical way or the visual way of making the relationship. So as you see, there are three arrow marks over here. This is the first arrow mark, this is the second arrow mark, this is the third arrow mark. If you want to view it in a tabular form, you can always go back and click on manage relationships. When you click on manage relationships, you have to select which relationship are you talking to. So let's select order to return. So if you select the second thing, order to return thing, it would show you many to one relationship from orders to return. That means for every order in the orders table, there would only be one available order in the returns thing. And do you have a filter or not? The definition of cross filter direction, meaning when you filter something related to the returns, do you want the order also to get filtered or no? Or you want only the orders to filter the returns. So right now we've said all orders should filter the return and not the other way around. And you can also make the relationship inactive by removing the checkbox over here. This means that the relationship, although it exists, but we are not using it in our Power BI development. So it is as good as a non-relative data set. All right. With this, we conclude the home menu of the Power BI desktop. Publish icon is used to publish to the Power BI server. So let's click on it. Do you want to save the changes? Yes, I want to save the changes. Now, as I save the changes, it would ask me where I want to publish it. I select the location where I want to publish it. These locations help you distinguish between the end users who would have access to what kind of workspace. So right now it is my workspace, which is my development workspace, which I have not shared it with anybody. So right now I'm deploying it into the Power BI cloud. Yes, this is done, right? Now let's move ahead. Let's look at the modeling aspect of it. So let's look at the view aspect of it. Do you want to have some rows and column, dotted rows and columns for you for clear placement of the visualization? You can make use of the grid lines to view it. And if you want it, you can keep it. If you don't want it, you can just uncheck it. Snap objects to grid. This is one option which you can snap these objects into to a grid. So right now, these objects right now form a grid. Lock objects. Now these objects can't be moved. You can also select whatever you wanted to, but you can't move those objects. So I have always ensured once you are done with your visualization locations on your screen, you can lock the object. Do you want the bookmark pane to be available over here? If yes, you can move it, keep it, or else you can cancel it. It gets removed from the bookmark pane. Selection pane is more like how do you want to select it? Do you want slicer to be present or no? Or you can move it from top to bottom. So do you want it to be down in the view order? You can keep it, right? You can also define the tab order. So this is not the tab order, so I'll just move it down. What I want is a product name. It is at the top. So slicer should always, this revenue by region should go down, right? And as we do the tab, it will move. So if I move it from here, see, I'm clicking on tab. On the this tab feature would be enabled on the Power BI services only. And once you deploy it, you would make use of these tab orders based on what you have done. Sync the slicer is a feature wherein if you want to sync it across different pages, you can do it, right? So this is an advanced feature which we'll have a look at it later. But in short, if I have to tell you what does the sync slicer do, it basically syncs the content of this page with the other pages available on the screen. So if you've selected this particular product, that data would only be available on this screen or else no. Performance analyzer is more like a development tool to analyze the performance of the uh, different objects getting loaded onto your Power BI desktop development. So if you see start recording and if you say refresh visuals, it would give you the percentage by which the time frame it took to deploy show that content onto the screen. You can further check what all elements, like was it a query which took more time, or visualization did it take time, or something else which took time to load the content. So in this way, you can work on the speed of loading of the content. One more important thing on the view icon over here is, let's close this for a while. And now let's look at the phone layout. This is something very important based on what we've seen. You would like to have a visualization covered over here. So let's have few visualization over here. Let's have certain regions as a visualization over here. You can increase the width if you may. Then you can have names over here. You can have the report given over here and a report given over here, right? These reports are basically, since it is a lock object, we are not able to work around with it. Now I am able to work with it. So see, this is the advantage and disadvantage of these options. Sometimes it is advantageous, sometimes it is not advantageous. It is up to you. This is more like the phone performance. You are trying to view how would it look like on my phone. So for a for learning sake, we can design to keep it this way. There are much better ways to have, or lighter, cleaner, faster ways of having these mobile reports as a friendly thing. Action buttons, you can decide which action button you want it on your screen. Probably on this screen you might want back and probably a Q&A, nothing else. So I've kept these two if you change it to the mobile view. Now let's go into again the charts screen by clicking on this option, and I go into, okay, I change it to desktop layout. I go into superstore tab. Let's move into modeling. These The one modeling feature over here is, how do we manage relationship? Like we said, relationship pane will, on clicking on this again, it shows you the relation, like the same thing what we saw on the view and manage relationship. So ultimately, there are overlapping features of relationship. You can access it over this button. You can access it by this model button. New measure, if you have certain formulas which you want to put into Power BI desktop for evaluation, then you have to write a measure. There is something a little advanced which we'll learn it in the due course. A new column, if you want to calculate or make a new column, like we made a new table, a region table. If you want to add a new column, you are free to do so by adding a new column. So a new column came in. You can delete a column and you can add a column, right? Then let's go ahead to that table. What if? This is one most asked feature which Excel used to give it to us, right? And you can decide what if. What if a value is this, what would be the increment? So you can decide the what if conditions over here to be viewed on the output graph. For now, let's not touch it. uh, Data type, if you are working on the table, right, and if you have this table, and if you want to change the data type, you can change the data type and format type over here. And now let's proceed with this. uh, let's go into the format. You can also categorize the data, what kind of data it is. It is a place, city, pro. If you have some kind of categories, these categories help you query the data better. Please understand such things of mapping. Basically, you are defining a metadata about your data. And once you have that kind of metadata, it helps Power BI help you with the relevant Q&As in your Q&A question answer sheet. There is a feature, like I said, a roles based access, in which we can create roles on a table and the filters, and then only that data would be visible. This is an advanced section which we'll have a look at it at a later stage. Once you have a role, you can view this Power BI desktop by a particular role. This helps you to test every role what you have given for the data visualization, and then only deploy the content on the screen. So again, this is something what would come in at a later stage in our learning. What is new group? So if you see, if you want to group certain contents, it is, in this case, it is about this region table. But if you are working with orders, right? And if you have something known as, uh, you can group certain countries into groups. So if you say this, is a part of important areas. You can group them, right, into something, and those areas would come up as a new group. So these are city groups, and which is a new column which has been generated and added to the list, right? And if you look at it, you can see, if you search important, if you search it based on city groups, it would give you city groups and it would give you what group it is part of. So this is a grouping mechanism which you would shortly see. Languages, if you want this schema uh, of a different uh, language, so like it says, import or export the schema that Q&A uses to answer questions. So but currently your Q&A answers all the contents in English. But if you want something to be answered in your native language, a regional language or your national language, you will have to import the schema first and then start using it. Yeah, this is a least used feature, but it is very important one to be used in Latin America, um, parts of Europe, Asia, Middle East, and so on and so forth. Those regions, if they are using Power BI, it will help them understand the data in the way they can easily understand. So this was all about modeling. Uh, Rest assured, we are going to touch groups and roles and new parameter what if very soon in our learning. This is a help documentation tab wherein you can submit your idea, you can do a Power BI for developers, you can connect to the community, you can ask for a support or raise an issue, you can read the documentation about Power BI, and you can do your self learning on your own. So with this, we conclude the file menu options of Power BI desktop. Along with this, we've also studied one more thing, which is this. We did cleansing of and importing the data into Power BI. In this case, we worked with an Excel data, and in this, we first identified the data for which we want to build a report, from which we want to build a chart, right? Next, we cleanse the data. We ensure the repetition of the data in the column is there, right? There are calculated columns. If there are, can be ignored. If you don't have, you can make it in the Power BI desktop after importing as well. Formats are not so important. Like I told you, that formats can be changed over here. You can add new column and you can derive a new formula. So formula is a measure and column is a new column, and type is not important. So these three things we followed. We ensured the data within the column is of same type. That was one thing. Therefore, repetition of data is preferred, and the data we use is an Excel data. This is an Excel data sheet what we had imported. We did identify the data source, that is Excel. We connected to the data source, that in this case the data source threw up so many tables: orders table, people table, and returns table. And optionally, we link the data. So we have linked the data using the back and the forward icon buttons, which help you connect to it. With this, we complete the second section of our story, which is file menu options and cleansing and import of data.